Okay, we're recording. This is Rick DiClemente welcoming you to Astrology Unplugged, our casual astrology fireside chat without the fire. We meet once a week and we talk about anything from A to Z. It's not a straight course, but it's a discussion group, usually on one topic per week, and then I focus on one chart per week. Sometimes we have guests. If you cannot make the live broadcast, these are put on my YouTube channel on the next day, Fridays. This is episode 21. And you can go to Rick DiClemente on YouTube and subscribe to my channel. And that's it. You'll be notified of when the new episodes are out. I had other plans for tonight, but since things are so unbelievably crazy with all this Aries energy, I'm going to have to talk a lot about the USA's chart and what's going on, because most people in the country do not understand what's happening. And when you get an astrological understanding, it really does help. It's not the answer to everything, but it does help. And I'm going to do my best to take my time and explain it to you. In the chat room, you will notice the instructions in case any of you are having trouble later with your microphones. It tells you how to correct that problem. I will keep you and ask you to keep your microphones muted until that time where we have more dialogue. Okay, I've got some notes, but they're not going to be easy to follow because there's so much going on. I want to explain a couple things to you. First of all, in the old days, and even today, we still do, but in the old days, I want to show you what we did as astrologers commonly. Okay. Can you see that? Can you see that graphic? Okay, Susan, I'm getting you shaking your head up and down. That's good. This is what's called an ephemeris. This is one page out of a book. It's called Ephemeris. This is an...
No, I'm not, Rick, we're not seeing that. We see the Zoom window.
No, we're not seeing that, no.
All right, well, that's what I wanted. Okay, thank you for letting me know. How about now? Do you see it now?
Yes. Yes.
Like your numbers?
Yes.
All right. The whole book is this way. People think you're weird. You lay in bed at night and you read nothing but numbers. But this is how the old days before computers, this is how we knew exactly where the planets were. And you can see this particular one is January and February of 1952. So you can see, I'm not going to go in great detail, but you can see the days of the week in January of 52, where the sun is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, all the way till it changes into Aquarius, where the moon is at midnight, where the moon is at noon, because this is all timed. Since the whole world uses this, this is all timed for Greenwich, England. So where was the moon at noon at Greenwich time? Where was Mercury? Where was Venus? Where was Mars? So Venus, you can see in Scorpio, switching to Sag on the 3rd day of January. Here's Mars in Libra, and around the 20th day of January, Mars shifted into Scorpio. So it's a very handy way to look at everything at once. It's very much encouraged that even new students get used to doing this, but they won't do it because they're so used to a computer putting the whole chart up at one time. So it's understandable, but if you learn this way, it really does help. One of the reasons that it helps is that you can see when a planet's going to go retrograde or not. You can see when it changes directions easily. For instance, here, you can see Saturn on the 24th day of January turned retrograde. You can see all the days before, you can see all the days after. So that's one of the advantages. So I wanted to show you that, and I want to show you a couple other things about basic astrology. Now, okay, let's share the screen. Let's go to here. Let's go to here. And I've lost my...
That's not it, Rick.
I know, but I've lost everything, so give me a moment. Give me a moment. Okay, do you see the planets right now? Okay, fine. All right. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is now, what you've been hearing for so long is this. Let me explain this to you. For all these years, and I've been doing it 38 years, for all these years, we watched Mars and we watched Jupiter and we watched Saturn and we watched everybody as they all move around, and they're very confusing because some are on slow cycles, some are on fast cycles, but gradually what's happening is the entire story is getting wiped out by Pluto. Pluto has been the story, and it's becoming the story for the near future. And I'm going to tell you why. Since 2008, Pluto entered Capricorn. And it's in the middle of Capricorn. It's going to leave around 2024. And now that by itself has been monumental because in the sign of Capricorn, which it hasn't been in since 1672, Capricorn rules all your institutions. And this is why we've seen so much corruption discovered in all the institutions and all the shakeups, etc. But not only that, secondly, we are a Cancer country. And Capricorn is opposite Cancer. So in the United States chart, which I'm going to show you, Pluto has been opposite Cancer, and it's been causing a lot of stress. Because when a transiting planet is opposite you, it causes a lot of stress. A lot of change is demanded. But what's coming is the Pluto return. And that's so big, that's so enormous, that's so era-specific that everything else is shrinking. And we're within 5 years now. The Pluto return will be February 20th of 2022. Is that right? (2020). 2022, 5 years from now. 2022. So when you're talking about big bodies that move so slowly, the whole era is in place now. And that's why these other Neptunes are still working and Uranus is still having its effect. But the Pluto return is so huge that we're in the midst of a huge era change. It's sweeping us, good and bad. Let me show you what I'm talking about. When we go to the charts, and we go and we call up, the United States chart. Here's Pluto. This is the United States chart. Do you see it? Okay. Now I'm going to put a double wheel here. I'm going to put 2 wheels. Do you see a double wheel? No. Let's try it again. Do you see a double wheel now? You should see a wheel inside a wheel. Okay. This is the birth chart of the United States. This never changes. In our lifetime existence in 1776, Pluto has been going very slowly all the way through 256 years, all the way through, all causing all these things to happen. And right now, Pluto is right here. So you can see it's not got much further to go till it returns. It's at 18 Capricorn. It started at 27 Capricorn. when it was last there was 1672, when the British Empire collapsed. So the fact this is taking over is so monumental that it's like a black drape going across everything. And that's why these other things like what Neptune is doing and what Uranus is doing, they're still important, but they're relatively unimportant compared to what Pluto is doing. Now, a couple of things I want to show you before we go further into this. When I show you a chart, this is for beginners. When I show you a chart, okay, here's the planets right now. I want you to understand, and it's confusing for beginners. Here are the planets in the signs, but these are houses. These are houses. The signs are out here. These are houses. I'm going to show you another wheel type that will show you the same thing but drawn differently. Okay, I'm going to show you a European style. There are many hundreds of types. Okay, this is the same thing. This is the European style. Now you can see the planets in the sign of Aries, the planets in the sign of Pisces, the planets in the sign.
Can't see it.
You lost it?
Yep, Scott.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so now it seems like every time I change, it loses it. So now you can see, here's the entire sign of Aquarius, the whole sign of Capricorn, the whole sign of Scorpio. So the houses are different than the signs. So every planet is in a sign, Scorpio, and it's also in a house, second house. This sun is in Aquarius. It's also in the fifth house. It's just that the other style that I show you, it doesn't show you the demarcations between the signs, because I find this to be very confusing. So a sign is different than a house, and you'll notice that all houses are different sizes, but the first house is always over here, always. The 10th house is always up here. The 4th house is always down here. The signs rotate, okay? So all signs, all planets are in a sign. They're also in a house. And this whole zodiac turns once per day, which further confuses it. Now, I'm going to go back to my wheel style, or I'll get all confused. Let's go, I go to Unit 2. This is my style. I'll probably have to stop and reload it. Now, do you see a different kind of zodiac in front of you? Do you see the North Node up here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now, here's why things are so heavy now. Pluto has been going from 0 Capricorn all the way to 18 degrees till it gets about here. That's a 15-year trip because it's so far away. It's going very fast, but it's so far away that it moves through the zodiac slowly. Whereas the sun goes around once a year, the moon goes around once a month. So everything's going around at different speeds. So you can see that Pluto is not only sitting at 18, it's been in constant tension recently with Jupiter at 22 and with Uranus at 21. 21, 22, 18. So this triangle called a T-square is putting lots of pressure on Pluto. So why have I been telling everybody to watch out for the 20th and 21st? Here's why. Okay, let's stop this and go back. Okay, do you see a double wheel, Elke?
Nope. Now I do, yeah. It's right there now. Yep.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you'll notice here we are on February 16th. I'm going to go by day. I'm going to go up to the 20th. Now, on the 20th, which is 4 days from now, this is the chart of today. This is the chart. Wait a minute. That's not right. This is a chart of today. One chart. But when I advance this chart by 4 days and I get to the 20th, look what happens. Mars has moved to 17 degrees, 1 degree away.
It's not there. It's not there, Rick.
I don't know what this thing. I think you have to kind of move slowly with this thing. How about now? Do you see Mars? Do you see Mars at 1738? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the 20th, which is 4 days from now, Mars is going to move to the 17.5 degrees and at a right angle to Pluto, which is 18.5. 18.5, 17.5. This is a square. It's going to make a right angle. This Mars has already been, this Pluto has already been picked on for 8 years now. Here comes another episode. These are violent combinations, Mars and Pluto. Mars always triggers when it's a degree away. Always. Mars will be 1 degree away on the 20th. It'll be 17.5, approaching 18. On the next day, Mars will be at 1822, almost exact. So the tension between Mars and Pluto, we're only looking at 2 planets here. Looking at how Mars is going to square Pluto, and then you have to stop and say to yourself, okay, so what's Mars-Pluto? All right, on the good side, it means taking strong action, standing up for yourself, getting into it, taking powerful action, shooting through things. But on the bad side, it's a very violent combination that the key words are nuclear weapons, volcanoes, earthquakes, explosions. These are byproducts. You know, when you have a combination of planets, you're going to get both. You're going to get both. Inside a person, you're going to get explosions of passion. Now, if you are aligned with that and ready and feel justified to, because this is all coming your way. If you feel this building in you and you resist this coming next week, you're going to have a lot of trouble. And when you repress energies, guess what happens? It will come from somebody else towards you. Why are they mean at me? Why are they yelling at me? Why did they wreck your car into me? Why did we burn one of the rooms down in my house? It's directly related to how you're using that energy. If you study astrology, you got to really be able to and ready to give up being a victim. It's that simple. So, how do you use it right? Well, you don't go rip somebody's head off, but you say, look, I have to talk to you. I got an issue with you. I got a bone to pick, and you preferably keep it sane and civil and assertive and don't go into aggression. So there's assertion, there's aggression, and there's rage. 3 different things. And you really don't want the last 2. And you certainly don't want the 3rd one. Now that goes for nations as well as people. I don't have to tell you what happens when you get into rage. You put rage out there, it's a real hard thing to rewind and get back in your court and go forward. It's usually permanently destructive. So as Mars hits Pluto, what Pluto's been doing all this time, while Mars is not there, Pluto has been digging up the issues. These are things that come on our plate. These are things we got to work on. These things need to be changed. And unlike most human beings, we stuff it. We don't want to hear about it. And then, that old thing keeps resurfacing. And that's when it resurfaces, is when it's triggered by Mars or the sun. So on the 20th and the 21st, Mars is going to trigger that Pluto. And if you're in touch with it, you will deal with it. You can deal with it harmoniously, but you will need to ride that surfboard across some rough waves. And the worst thing you can do is try to hide on the beach or go underwater, because it's just not going to let you do it. So we're just getting started. Now, to analyze what it's going to do, you have to understand what is the given. What is the current state of affairs? Well, the current state of affairs before Mars comes to town is already pretty volatile, right? Then you have to take in the nature of the planets involved. And Mars and Pluto are very volatile brothers. They're just volatile. Okay. Look at, what do you think happened when you backed up Muhammad Ali in the corner? Did you ever watch Ali fight? He played rope-a-dope until he had enough. Then he came out like a cannon and you were dead. That's because he had heavy Mars-Pluto in his chart. Did you watch what happened when Bobby Fischer played? He was not there to beat you. He was there to destroy your identity. Mars-Pluto people are very powerful. Do you ever want to take a punch from Bruce Lee? These people have taken that Pluto power through their Mars, and they have deadly energy. So it could be wonderful, and I think it's preempted by what you saw a few days ago with the break in that dam, I believe in California. Or was it Washington? It was California. Okay, dams breaking, things like that are very common. Now, let's go further, because this is very significant. And I'm sorry, I don't have time to take your chat messages just yet. Okay, so do you all see the zodiac again? Okay, now we're on the 21st. Now watch what happens here. The 22nd, 23rd, I've been writing all week, 20-21. Watch what happens on the 25th. Now we got Mars at 21, Uranus at 21, and Eris at 22. And Eris is a newfound mini planet. It moves very, very, very slowly. It's been in this area for a long time. But these planets combining are extremely dangerous, and they're all opposite Jupiter. So, Eris, we're just discovered in 2003, is the planet of discord. We're going to learn more about it. But what you're seeing now, these four planets, Venus, Mars, Uranus, and Eris, these are the planets of the American spring. That's what's going on. Look at the march on DC. Look at the women's march all over the country. Aries planets want a punch. They want action. Mars squared to Pluto in every year or so. Mars squares Pluto at least once or twice every year, yes. But the point is, it doesn't always square Pluto when Pluto's under a lot of stress. And Pluto's under tremendous stress. So what has been Pluto's doing all these years? You watch me write long articles for years. It's trying to undermine things, to bring out the corruption. Pluto digs out the corruption so that there can be light again. And you've seen my articles, the 4 stages of Pluto. Ignoring it, that ain't good. We're now at stage 2. We ain't got any chance. We got to deal with it, clean up the junk. We're not dealing with it perfectly, but at least we're dealing with it. Some are still back there denying it, not many. Stage 2 is the heavy stage, dealing with the dark stuff. Okay, so you see on the 25th, you're going to have this huge explosion, Mars, Uranus, Chiron, all together. Now, so what do? You don't go down the street looking for a fight. So what do we do collectively? Well, a lot of really good things. Okay, a lot of good things. A lot of good things are happening. People are getting off their butt. They're starting to speak out. They're starting to fight back. Tons of women are running for Congress now. Tons of men are running for Congress. A lot of groups are forming, and they're doing it in a peaceful manner, legal manner. That's what we want. We don't want an anarchy. What you don't want is a bunch of people getting in the back of their pickup truck when things don't go right with their shotguns. And that's a Martian thing. Mars is very much like Yosemite Sam. What I got to shoot at? He shoots 10 times before he even knows what he's shooting at. I mean, that's a comical way of doing it, but it is no picnic, and it's not safe. So you've got to use your Mars in the sense that I got to get active. I can't stay still. I can't stay passive. I got to get assertive. But on the other hand, you don't want it to come out too crazy. All right. So I think you got the story there with what Mars and Uranus and Pluto are all doing. Now, one of the things that you have to wonder about is, why is America only happy when they got a hawk? One of the things that's happening to America now is it's losing its mission statement. And when I'm called in to analyze companies or analyze family units, what the number one problem that goes wrong with a business is they stray from their mission statement. It's been said, Chuck, and I know you are a corporate leader, and I think you'll find this interesting. It's been said that corporations only go as long as their leader lives. When their leader passes away, it's hard to keep up the same mission statement. And I think that's somewhat true, although it can happen. The founder's belief in their mission statement. Well, I'm going to try to talk about this in a very delicate manner. This is a very delicate subject. I was called in to deal with a business entity years ago in Pittsburgh, and they weren't doing very well. And I was lucky because I found that businesses' birth time and when they incorporated. So I had 2 charts, and I studied the charts, and it became very obvious that what was happening with this 80, 90-year-old business is they were straying from their mission statement. Oh, I'm American and we don't torture, but we do enhanced interrogation techniques. Oh, I'm American and we got the light up and you're welcome in my country, but you're not welcome. You see how we're straying from our mission statement. When you stray from your mission statement, the entity dies, or at least it morphs. So you can't be against torture, but for it. You can't be against bringing in you're tired and you're hungry and be for it. Which one is it? This is not happening to us. This is our choice. We have to stand our ground. And that's what Pluto does. Pluto doesn't like weakness. Stand your damn ground. That's what's going on. So you could say, not only are we straying from our mission statement, we keep talking about how we're based on the Constitution. Well, are we? Are we? What does that mean? We're redefining everything now. It's good, and that's the Pluto period, to dredge up everything, look at it. You know, this is like Chuck. He's a corporate fella. It's just like Chuck coming in at the top of a corporation and interviewing every single person in the corporation. Some people got to go. Some people need promoted and doing a house cleaning. That's what Pluto does. So that's one reason it's uncomfortable. Now, we got to talk about the Cancer part of the United States. And maybe I sound like a broken record, but it's so critical that we talk about this. Because what's happening in the country is we don't understand what perception to use to evaluate it. First of all, being a Cancer country has great pluses because we're emotional, we care about each other, we care about the country, we care about family, we're sensitive to each other, etc. We can be fierce in defending ourselves, but the negative side is really a mouthful. And the negative side there has been this theme, if you've been watching closely, there's been this theme, not only in the USA's chart, which has a moon in Aquarius, there's this theme of moon and Uranus going on. First of all, the United States chart has a moon in Aquarius. And you have to understand that when a planet is in Aquarius, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. All signs are ruled by a planet. I don't care what planet your sign is in, the sign itself is ruled by a planet. So Aquarius and Uranus are similar, but yet a little bit different. The moon rules Cancer. The moon rules Cancer for everybody. The moon is similar to Cancer, but yet different. So there's been this phenomenal theme throughout the USA's chart. And in the last couple of years, I'm noticing it a lot. These people with lunar themes and Uranian themes. What's so unusual is the moon people want security, they want family, they want the closeness and dependency on each other. And the Uranian people want the opposite. They want to be free, they want to go do what they want to do, they know what they want to do, they don't want anybody tying them down. So you got these people that have dual needs. The United States chart is very Uranian, it's very lunar. So you want this freedom at the same time that you don't. Okay, so this theme keeps playing out within the USA's chart too. Now, what's so difficult is the USA's chart now, like all cancers, are being stimulated now to become individuals. And Cancer is not a sign that does well being an individual. Cancer is not made for being an individual. Sure, there are cancers that are exceptions. Cancers are made for dependency upon the family group. So how do you get a Cancer to own their independence when it's not really their nature? That's one of the difficulties we have here. So the big issue is this. Let me show you. Here's the big issue, and I've been through this before. All right, there's the event of that. Let's go back. Oh, here's the USA's chart. Do you see the USA's chart?
Yep.
No, that's the Pittsburgh chart.
It shouldn't be Pittsburgh.
It's been the Pittsburgh chart the whole time.
Yeah, I can't see it, Rick.
I don't have a Pittsburgh chart.
Something's blocked out.
How about now?
It was on and then it disappeared again.
Do you see USA now?
No,
Really?
no. It came on and it left.
I wonder if you have to close out of it and reopen.
How about now? Do you see USA with a moon up here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is
Eight.
the United States chart. So you see that the moon is very strong and Uranus is very strong because they're close to the angles. So you have this dichotomy, and you'll recall when this country was founded, it was 20 years or so till Uranus was discovered. So this was a surprise. So what's been happening lately is Pluto in 2008 was right up here, right opposite Venus. And what sits at Venus? Venus is your money, it's your financial systems. What sits at 1 degree Cancer? What sits at 1 degree Capricorn, I mean? The sun of the Fed. The federal, what do they call it? The Fed?
Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve. So as soon as Pluto moved into 0 Capricorn, the sun of the Federal Reserve chart is at 1 degree. And what did you hear echoed everywhere? Kill the Fed, stop the Fed, end the Fed, end the Fed. You heard that. What happened to us financially? I don't have to tell you. 2007, 2008, it was an economic huge catastrophe and a death and a rebirth, if you will. Then it moved on and hit our Jupiter. Well, what happened to Jupiter? Around 2010, 11, Jupiter are your schools. They're your education. They're your politicians. They're your colleges. What did you see then? You saw a fiasco going on with those issues. Then it hit the sun. In the past couple of years, that's the actual identity of the country. So Pluto is putting all this pressure on us. And what's happening now, it all comes down to one simple thing. How are we going to get along with other countries? And up until recently, it didn't matter. Now, you talk to Elke from Germany, and you talk to our other friends, and you talk to Louise from Canada, and you talk to Louise from England, I mean, and you ask them what it's like when you don't get along with your neighbors. In America, we really, in a lot of ways, we weren't being mean. We were just not worried about it. We always got along with Mexico. We always got along with Canada. But you're in England, if you didn't get along with France, it was a big deal. Look at all the trouble Germany had if you didn't get along with your neighbor. And now all of a sudden, since Pluto's opposite our sun, our identity is dependent now upon how we get along with these others. We can no longer get by just being the Cancer country. Our identity is coming from the 7th house. Our identity is fully based upon how well we get along with others. And we're not doing real well. We're not picking the necessary best Secretary of State. We have all kind of keep the bombs going, keep the drones going, keep the hawks in office. We're going to issue all these sanctions. All these old methods aren't going to work anymore. We became very comfortable. Oh, we had nightly news, sanctions here, put some ships here, ships fly by. Everything's nonchalant. We don't take it seriously. Nothing can happen to us. Well, that was pre 9/11, and now we know that it can happen to us. And now everybody's freaked out about terrorists. These terrorists have been growing a long, long time. You think you're going to stop them when they got a little plant in the middle of Iowa? That's not the way to go about it. And the knee-jerk Cancerian reaction is, oh my God, here's this clown running for president. He's doing all these vulgar things, but he's going to keep us safe. So I won't look, at least he'll keep us safe. I don't care what he does or what he says, as long as he keeps us safe. How's that working out? And this is all going to hit the fan over the 24th and 25th in the next few days. The next thing that's coming is this. Oh boy, let me show you this one. Let me go back to this chart. Let me call it Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump. Okay, there's this Mr. Trump. And I'm going to do a midpoint chart between the USA and Mr. Trump, which I've already shown you. Now, I'm sure you can't see it, so I'll go back to it. Okay, this is the midpoint chart of Mr. Trump in the United States. Do you all see it with the moon sitting here?
Nope.
Suzanne? Elke?
Yeah,
You see it?
yeah, now.
Is that a yes?
Yes, now it came up.
Okay. Now, not only is this extremely dangerous because this is not a planet, everything depends on the moon and everything's in the 12th house. But now here comes Uranus and Mars.
No, it's gone again.
Isn't
Yeah.
that amazing? It just disappears. All right, I'm going to show you some, so bear with me. Now, let me put,
It's usually not like that for everybody else.
I know,
These are
well, it's,
abnormal amounts of glitches.
it seems to be the more people watching. Do you see a double wheel now?
No,
You don't see a double wheel. All right. Do you see a double wheel now?
nope.
Looks like it's thinking about it.
Yeah. Close and reboot.
John, what do you say?
I think you might just have to close it and reopen it, Rick.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You might have to close everything out and reopen it. I think that's
How
how you
about
fixed
now?
it before in the past. For some reason, it's just.
How about
confusing
now?
right. Yes, it's up now.
Okay. Do you see this moon at 19 degrees? This is the volatile planet in the midpoint between Mr. Trump and the chart of the United States. Do you see how Pluto is approaching that moon? This is where the planet is now. Pluto's approaching. You see that? Look at Mars, 14. Watch Mars. Watch Mars when it gets to 18. There it is. February 22nd, Wednesday. Mars is at 19. Mars is, let me go back one. February 21st. Mars is at 18, squaring Pluto. I'm sorry. It is squaring the moon, which has Pluto sitting on it. And once again, this chart is the dependency on the moon. So when you have a composite chart, in other words, you have a composite chart between Mr. Trump and the country based on the moon, Pluto's sitting on it and it's getting hit by Mars. What does that mean? When you have the moon as the major planet in a composite between two people or two entities, it means codependency. Well, you'll stay here with me when it gets rough, won't you? Well, I'll stay here with you when it gets rough. Okay. And it's like two people hiding behind each other. They can't see us, can they? And it's just not dealing with reality at all. Well, I thought you were going to mother me. Well, I thought you were going to mother me. Well, I thought you were going to protect me. And boom. And that's what's going on. So the problem is not Trump per se. The problem is why we chose him. Why we chose him is because we followed the shadow side of cancer. And we went, I'll close my eyes, and I'm not saying I'm pro-Hillary or anti-Hillary. It had nothing to do with her. But we chose him because we didn't want to deal with stuff. And he gives off that male hawk authority, certain sounding, all kick their butt, don't worry about it. How's that working out for everybody? I used to think, in the college days, I used to think that it was kind of arrogant, this old-fashioned tendency, requirement to send junior college students abroad for a year. And then I went abroad for a while, and I saw how brilliant that was. And I saw how my whole life changed when I got to England and France and Italy. And I looked back across the scene. And I wish that people would give us their perspectives, whether it's Louise, especially, whether it's, I would like to ask you now, Louise and Elke. Louise from England, Elke from Germany. What do you see in a neutral fashion when you look across and you see the United States?
Well, I live here now, of course.
I know, but what do you?
Yeah.
You're the best of both worlds.
Well, yeah, well, and I've witnessed it twice because I lived here in the 80s and then again for the last 8.5 years. And I studied American studies. I just think they're very paranoid. It's a very paranoid nation completely. And very insular. Very, very insular.
They're insular?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But you don't solve it by building a wall.
Oh, no.
The antithesis of the Statue of Liberty saying, bring me your tired and poor, and then you can meet by wall. Which one is it?
Uh-huh.
This is why I'm going to, if you've not read this doctrine, I'm going to push this document on you again. It's a document I wrote that I'm very proud of. It features, it's about cancer. It features Helen Keller, who was a very archetypal cancer American. And it's about America becoming more vulnerable, not invulnerable, how we need to become more vulnerable. And I'm going to go get the URL for that. Hold on a moment.
Well, you know, Canada is a cancer too, right?
That's right.
And that's what they're doing right now. They are becoming more vulnerable.
Very
know,
good. It's because
right.
you're smart.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to try this new thing I got here. I'm going to share the screen. No, I'm not. I'm going to put it in my chat. Hi there, Miss Jordan. Okay.
Yeah, the US is very...
There's an article that I just pasted into the chat room on cancer vulnerability. I suggest you write that down and read that article because it explains how when we become vulnerable, other countries start to lower their weapons. In our mindset, if we lower our weapons, we're going to get attacked. Elke, how do the German people see Americans?
Well, I don't really want to say this because German people are very blunt and it's not pretty.
Well, say it in the mildest way. How do you Canadians see us?
There is no polite way to say this. I'm sorry.
Can I add?
I didn't
Okay.
ask you to be polite. I'm asking for accuracy.
I've had the experience of being in Germany, although I'm not from Germany. I can bear witness to what Elke's saying.
Mm.
I was there in 19.
Okay, when you were in Germany, how did they see Americans?
Well, at that point, it was 10 years after the war, so they were liberators to an extent.
Okay.
But there was also a the beginning of the ugly American perception
Mhm.
already.
Okay, when they saw us as ugly Americans, what does that mean?
That we were careless and ran roughshod and
Overbearing, loud.
Elke, what did the Germans say? It's time for us to face these things.
There's no, they pretty much call the Americans stupid. You know,
Okay.
I had the privilege of going to school there. I went on a student exchange program, and I went to school in the U.S. for a while in high school, and I couldn't believe what went on there. It was like, first of all, they didn't learn anything. The girls are sitting in class painting, polishing their nails, and there was such a focus on sports, and just then they were stupid, these people. I mean, they were stupid. They had no idea.
I think you're probably right, and I think that it's time we start facing it, and it's not cancerian to introspect.
No.
Cancers say love it or leave it. Love it or get the hell out.
Yes, and
They're very defensive. This is my country, get the hell out if you don't like it. So
I've been told to go back to England before.
Okay, but the point is now, it is now time. All this Aries energy. It is, and I happen to think that Americans are really brilliant. I think we're really smart. And there are a lot of us that are stupid too. True.
yes.
Time for us to bite the bullet and get moving. Because you know what? And I'm going to say this to Karen Shanahan, who's listening. After all these years of intense study with Pluto, and I've taught a lot to her about it comes down to two words. Getting successful with Pluto and Scorpio energy is two words. You got to get real. You sit in a room with a Scorpio and you try to bullshit them, you might as well leave. They see right through you. It's time for us to get real with our opponents, get real with our friends. It's time to get real. Are we for torture or are we against it? Which one?
Well, today
There's no reset on these buttons that we're playing. Go ahead.
Today Trump was talking about, I was watching his speech, and he was talking about strengthening the military, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
It's exactly the wrong thing.
I know.
We got 200 bases now.
That's 300, isn't it?
Is that right?
Thousands around the world, thousands.
Okay, well, the point is that a lot of us are getting with it, and shows like this are helping, and we're starting to build. And the number one thing I wrote down here is, with all this Mars going on, what are we going to do with it over the next couple of weeks? Number one, we got to cool people's heels. Nobody's got to get up and shoot anybody. No one has to shoot anybody.
No.
We need to start realizing that we're all saying the same thing. We want Americans to be fat and happy, well-fed, house over your head, get their medicine, go to school, just like other countries.
Mm-hmm.
But we've obviously got to get a grip on this corrupt, ineffective government that's going on. Very few countries make it past the Pluto return, 250 years. Very few countries can do it because the abuse of power. Now, Pluto's returning on February of 2022. We've got 5 years left, and that ain't nothing in planetary time. We're in the Pluto teeth now. And the way you succeed is you get together and you bring all your shovels.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Karen could be nice enough to give us a response here, being a Scorpio what does that mean to you, Karen? I'll unmute you here, dear. What does it mean to you when I try to tell non-Scorpios that it's time to get real? What does that mean?
You got to take off the mask. You have to let down your guard, because anything you say other than truth is some fabrication of some facade that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And
BS.
And a real Scorpio really sees through that.
And you know what? I love you.
And a nasty and an out of balance Scorpio can even see through it, and they use it to manipulate.
Yes.
And I'm serious. I love you people, and I think they're great people here and around us. And I think we have great friends, and we really need to come together. But we gotta do what we can to turn the TV off and stop listening to its junk and start coming together and being productive. And I think we can do it. And that's completely beside the point. Thank you, Karen. Completely beside the point that there's an awful lot of evidence now that someone out there is helping us.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of talk going on in many ways, spiritually, whatever, aliens, whatever you want to call it, that we are being helped. Thank God. But we are powerful together. We really are powerful. I'm going to end this segment now and get on to Marta's chart because I really want to. I want to leave this open for a few more minutes and take any of your questions. Yeah, Elke.
I just want to say something real quick because I'm a counselor myself, and what's happening to the country is also in a way happening to me, in my own life. And I think the biggest obstacle the country has to face is fear. Fear, 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 fear. And if you can come together from a spiritual perspective and kind of just hand it over to the big guy upstairs or whoever you want to call it, and trust.
Oh, and we're based on a Christian nation. And Jesus said, you should never fear anything. I will always supply for you, but we don't listen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's another part of getting real.
Yeah.
Getting real. And I'm looking around you, and I'm looking at Chuck, and Chuck is becoming a wonderful spiritual leader within business, and looking at Linda, and Linda's becoming quite an artist, and Louise is she's quite an astrologer, and Susan is quite an artist, and John, I'm trying to spur him on to do local politics, and on and on and on with the rest of you. We have some great people here. And if I can answer any more questions, I really try not to scare you. I try not to talk over your head, but I want to be direct and honest and explain. So before I go to Marta's chart, what other questions do you have that's along this theme?
Rick, the puritanical side of the US, which is still very much to the fore, obviously it comes from the Puritans, but where does that show up in?
I didn't understand you. I'm sorry.
Puritans, the puritanical side of the US, because it's still very much there.
That's a very good question.
Where does that show in the chart?
Let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
A very good question.
There's such a repressive side to it too, right?
Well, let's take a look. First of all, I'm sure you don't see that. Let me try it again.
We saw it.
Okay, do you see the USA's chart now?
Give it a second.
You see the moon up top?
No.
No.
I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to call and find out. Okay, how about now?
No.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, you got 4 planets in Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Cancer is very ladylike. Okay, even the Cancer in Donald Trump's chart. Do you see how many times he uses the word treat? They don't treat me right. They treat me right. They treat them right. They don't treat them well. That's very puritanical. You've got a very amplified moon. It's very sensitive. You've got Saturn in Libra, which is all about social mores, right opposite Chiron in Aries, trying to limit and keep control of that wild individuality. So there's puritanical statements there. You've got Pluto in the 9th house, which is governing all of your rigid dogma and your rules, bringing across Capricornian dogma. So there's a lot of puritanical messages here. The Pluto in Capricorn, the strong moon here, the Chiron suppressed by Saturn here, the 4 planets in Cancer here. Well, I'm not going to go into that one, but there's plenty of samples here of how Americans go like this when they see British or French art or European art or European movies.
Yeah, there's so much pornography.
Yeah. You know what? It can be a marvelous time. What I want to say to you, and from my position, is get with it. I don't care what you do. Write your own newsletter, kick some butt, go do something, make it happen, but stand up to these people that are saying stupid things. You don't have to fight with them, but stand up and push on and say, no, we can't have this anymore. We have to have more progressive ways of doing this stuff. Now, I want to take Mark's question, and then I will move on to Marta's chart.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, not a question, just a comment. Everyone might remember when John Ashcroft was the Attorney General, he covered up the statues in one of the porticos because he didn't like the sight of the exposed breasts.
Oh, my God. Okay.
I remember that. Yeah, he had issues. He had serious issues.
The cancer shadow side is absolutely deadly because it wants to think that it can live under the shell, underneath the rock, and be okay. And you can't do it. You all know what happens with a closed system. Closed systems die. All of them. All of them. They have to have input. They have to have output. All of them. That's the problem. Cancers need help with that. It's not their nature. We all have to work together. Now let me move on to Miss Marta Gillette's chart.
I was going to say real quick, Rick, remember the Republican Party is also a Cancer entity.
Republican Party is even worse because it's a Cancer with a moon in Scorpio, and it's undergoing a Neptune return, which means it's got about 3 years left. Now let me go into Marta's chart. I had it here a minute ago. Marta, I have a lot of news for you. And okay, and I want to.
Are you still recording?
No, I'm going to turn the recording off. Would you prefer that?
Yeah, if you don't mind, thanks.
I can't hear you.
Yes.